is it hanging YouTube? Peter here, your Ginger Jody Geek. Welcome back to the channel. And this is My. So this is the show where I take someone from the comic or the toy collecting community, we'll get them to show off some of their favorite collectibles, and we ask them some hard-hitting questions as we'll go through. So tonight I am very pleased to say I've got a good friend on screen. So this is my guest, Luke from HYDRA Collectables. I've lost him. There he is. How are you doing, Luke?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm really looking forward to this.
Yeah, this should be fun. So I've known you for a good, well, as long as I've been on YouTube. In fact, before I became on YouTube, because I think I bought some comics off you at one point.
You did, yeah. That's how we. It seems weird that that's how we first met, isn't
it? Yeah. So that was at least a couple of years ago. So I already know a little bit about you, but you never fail to surprise us, with some of your views and things in your collectibles. So I'm looking forward to getting stuck in tonight and finding out a little bit more about you. Can I just point out before we kind of crack on, Luke's still recovering from a bit of a chest infection, so he might be coughing a little bit, and I've just inhaled a big chunk of sellotape, so that's rattling around in my lungs. So if we do start coughing, I do apologize. Okay, let's quickly jump to the chat before we get started and see who we've got. So, as ever, we've got good old StreamYard. Thank you for joining. We've got James T. Keegan. Can't stay, just wanted to say have a great show. Catch you on the rewind. Thank you very much, James. Catch you in a bit, bud. We've got Jack. Thank you for joining, Jack. We've got JP. Here we'll go again. Thank you, mate. Nice to see you. Luke having to talk about his opinions for an hour, going to be a tough one for him.
He's not wrong.
He's not. Yeah, and it is an hour. All right. I'm
Okay.
keeping you to that, right? Nothing to do with Lost either. We've got Sean. Thank you very much for joining, Sean. And we've got good old Fuzzy. Rambunctious greetings. Thank you very much. And we've got Deadman. Thank you very much for joining. Okay, Luke. So, like I said, this is the show where you get to show off some of your bits and bobs in the nicest possible way. And we also ask you some hard-hitting questions. So, we're going to start off with a nice, easy one. Tell us your backstory. What I want to know, Luke, is a little bit about you. What got you into collecting in the first place? And then also what got you into this beast called YouTube? What enticed you to start recording yourself in YouTube?
Cool. Yeah, so it's all kind of connected, really, to be honest. So I've always been a bit of a Dell boy, a bit of a grifter. I like my side hustles. And that went on for a really long time, like from childhood, pretty much. So it all started, I know exactly when my love of Marvel started. It was in 1994. And that was because the Spider-Man animated series had come on television, created by John Semper and team. And I absolutely fell in love with that. But also I was a big fan of going to Blockbuster Video. And they had a promotion on at the time where they were giving away the Flair 94 trading cards.
Oh, nice cards.
So basically, I just used to go there every week and beg them for a pack of these cards with every rental that I was doing, even though it wasn't meant to just be handed out that willy-nilly. And so anyway, when their stock dried up and they had no more, I was devastated. I wanted more of these cards. So they pointed me in the direction of the local comic book shop and said I'll probably find something there. So, that's where my love of comics kind of spiraled. I went from the cards to the comics. And like I say, being a bit of a wheeler dealer, I used to go raiding the 50p box and basically buy loads of comic books that I would then take to school with me and sell for a profit. I would then take those profits, go into another side hustle where I was buying all the cakes and everything from the bakery just before closing. And I'll take those cakes home and buy and sell them to the kids around the turning for an extra profit, and then take all of those profits back with me to the comic book store where I would buy more stock and the books that I wanted to own myself.
And what age were you here?
So by the time I was doing the wheeling and dealing, I was in secondary school. So I was about 13 or 14 years old.
Yeah.
And that's basically how I paid for my lunch money and everything. Like what my parents gave me wasn't enough. And I made sure that I could get it elsewhere. And that's kind of carried on through into adult life too. I wouldn't consider myself to be a flipper by any means. But I do like the hustle of buying and selling vintage toys. So basically that's my backstory. That's what got me into comic books. And what got me into YouTube was Comics with Bueller. He was doing a show and he asked people to share their backstories. So one of my very first videos on YouTube was me sharing that very backstory. So it's all connected.
Very good, very good, very cool channel as well. It's interesting you saying that about buying the cheaper comics and selling, because my dad was a massive comic book collector, and it kills us to think he had all the original X-Men comics and all that kind of stuff back in the day. But he used to do exactly as you kind of described: buy the comics and then take them to school, and he used to charge people to read them. So you would charge a fraction of what the comic cost. You would get it, the comic for a couple of people to read, and then that's how he continued the hobby, and then threw them all in the bin. Bloody hell, honestly.
I used to literally walk around school, opening up the blazer and showing like keychains and comics and all sorts. Like it was.
I mean,
I got told off. I had cut a slit in my blazer and put a zip so I could store things in the blazer. My mum went mad.
You see, you're saying that, and I can absolutely picture it. You in your little flat cap wandering around trying to sell stuff.
I didn't have the flat cap back then.
Just jumping in, we've got Ephraim from HYDRA, from Passport Comics. Nice to see you, Ephraim. Thank you very much for joining. Mine and Ephraim's top picks for July video has just gone out. I didn't realize. I mean, today you've got a tops picks video, a short, 2 live shows from me. Bloody hell. But yeah, so please do go and check that out. And Ephraim's just put out a video on the Flash movie, because he managed to get to see it on a press screening yesterday. So yeah, good stuff. This is all a bit Disney TV movie sound at this. We've got people saying hello to Ephraim. James, I thought you'd gone. But yeah. Arthur Daly, who knew? Okay, mate. So we're going to move on to your first collectible, and it's an image that you've sent with. So tell us about this.
Yeah, so this basically I struggled when you said to show certain things. It was hard for me to pick anything individually. So instead, I've opted for things where they kind of resemble a greater array of things, a greater array of items. And this is my prop replicas. I've got a lot of stuff here. I used to work in the special effects industry. I know a lot of people that work in the industry. And so I'm able to either get things from original molds or find people who actually sculpt the stuff from new. And so basically my house is littered with all sorts of movie props and replicas. And these are just 2 of my favorites. I've got a life-size bust of the Crypt Keeper, which people might remember from the amazing HBO TV series back in the day. And then a life-size puppet of a gremlin, which was taken from the original molds from the Gremlins 2 movie. So it's not an original. It wasn't screen used, but it has been taken from those molds.
The actual mold itself. I'm loving that gremlin. I didn't know you had that. I am loving the gremlin. And what's the story with the pink burned teddy? What's that?
So that's from Breaking Bad. That's just it was something that was available at a convention. I saw it. It's from the Breaking Bad show, and I thought that'd be fun. I've actually got that gremlin sitting in a very large Toys R Us wheelable trolley, like a wheelable basket, and I've just filled it with all sorts of stuff. Like you can see, there's a Blockbuster video case in there as well.
Yeah. And that Crypt Keeper is incredibly detailed. I like that a lot.
Yeah, it cost me a pretty penny to.
I was going to say,
to make that.
Pretty valuable collectibles, them, Luke. I would have thought.
They're essentially one of a kind. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like as I say, that came from the mold of the Gremlins. But not many people have access to that mold. I just happen to know someone who does.
Yeah, stunning, absolutely stunning. Okay, we're off to a good start. I'm liking that already. So your next question, Luke. Tell us what your favorite movie is. What's your go-to movie?
So my favorite movie changes based on whichever movie out of the 3 that I have seen most recent. So I can certainly tell you my top 3 favorite movies, if that helps. It's Interview with the Vampire. It's
I haven't seen that for years.
It's Silence of the Lambs. And it's Leon the Professional.
Yeah. Now I knew you liked Leon the Professional because you've talked about that before. I didn't know Silence of the Lambs or Interview with the Vampire was up there. What is it about those 2 in particular that appeals?
I've always loved horror and vampires. From the age of 7, where I found my dad's VHS tape of Lost Boys, and he told me not to watch that, it's too scary. So the minute he went out, I put it on. I've loved Lost Boys since I was 7 and watched it repeatedly, still have the same VHS tape. And yeah, basically it ignited my love for vampires. So obviously things like Buffy started coming onto the scene, and I started following all the Bram Stoker's Dracula and stuff like that. And then Interview the Vampire came along, and I was just like enthralled by this story, because it's not, to me at least, it's not your typical horror film. Like I wouldn't class it as a horror film. I'd class it as like a biopic of just someone who's lived for a really long time.
Yeah.
And you know, the cast, like, it's insane. You know, it really is, and it never ceases to not captivate me. It always captures my attention every time it's on TV.
It's a movie I've not gone back and watched for a long time. But I remember really enjoying it. So yeah, I might have to go back and rewatch that. They've just redone a TV series, I think, haven't they?
They have, and I really enjoyed that too. So after seeing Interview with the Vampire for the first time, I went on a bit of a Anne Rice binge when it comes to novels, and I read all of her works. I even have a signed copy of one of her books as well. I absolutely love Anne Rice's writing. And the new TV spin-off that they did on AMC, I loved it so much because it was different. They kind of updated it and brought it to the new age, and there was enough the same and enough different that I was able to really enjoy it for what it was. I didn't feel like anything had been ruined or taken away from me because I still have that other film.
Yeah, it's still there, safe. What about more modern takes on vampires? Because I'm a big fan of a series called True Blood. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yeah, big fan of True Blood. Probably the most... The vampire depictions within that show are probably the closest to Anne Rice's style of Creature of the Night, as it were. A lot of the powers and the abilities are all the same.
Twilight?
No.
Yeah, good. We can stay friends. Good. Right, Luke, show us something. What have you got to show us tonight?
So, sticking with favourite movies, it makes sense to segue straight into an item that I've got here, and it's to resemble signed memorabilia. You know, I've already showed you some of the props that I have, but this is a prop and it's been signed, and that is my Hannibal Lecter mask, signed by Anthony Hopkins, your pal Hannibal Lecter.
Wow.
And there's a story behind this. So basically, I had caught wind that he was going to be at the BAFTAs one year, and I basically made this mask. You know, me and a friend basically run it. Sculpted it and run it through silicone and created this fiberglass mask. And I was like, I'm going to take it down there to London and get it signed. And I queued up all day waiting. And I was right by the door, right by the entrance. And his security personnel came to scope out the area and make sure it was all okay. And I was like, I just really want him to sign this, you know. And they were like, don't worry, we'll sort it out. Did they help? The security guard literally stood in front of me and guided him through the door. So I was absolutely gutted. Anyway, fast forward a few years later, and I still had this mask just lying about in the room, right here. And I caught wind that he was filming in Stevenage, the town where I live, and he was doing a King Lear adaptation. And they were filming down in Stevenage. So I was in London. I was like, oh my God, I can't even get home in enough time or anything. What am I going to do? So I phoned my father-in-law. And he's the only person with a key, and he came in and he picked up the mask and off he went. And I didn't hear anything back from him after that. I didn't know what had happened. And then he obviously came round that evening and told me, no, I couldn't do it. You know, it's too busy, etc. And then he showed me, and he told me all the chats that he had with him and shaking his hand and having photos and stuff like that. And then little did I know, my sister done the same. My sister went down there just with a scrap of paper and got him to sign a little note for me. So that's and it's Anthony Hopkins, absolute star. You know, again, Silence of the Lambs, one of my favorite movies.
He's an incredibly nice guy as well, by all accounts. He's kind of one of Hollywood's kind of great.
His security guard isn't.
Screw him. Screw the security guard. Fuzzy's just saying the creator of True Blood makes him of my favourite shows and films. Yeah, I agree, mate. He's stunning. Absolutely stunning. Okay, Luke, another tough question for you. Claim to fame. Have you ever met with a celebrity or done something that's made you stand out from the crowd? What would you class as your claim to fame?
I don't know how to answer this without seeming big-headed, but I've had a lot of fortune in this area. Obviously,
right.
Well, my previous jobs, you know, for anyone that doesn't know, I mean, I mention it a lot, but I'm a full-time stay-at-home dad now. But prior to that, I was obviously working in the effects industry, where you see a lot of famous people anyway. Even when you're sticking like all these prosthetics to their faces and stuff, like you got them there in the trailer. So I've had a lot of meetings with celebs from that side of it. But then also my other job was installing home cinema systems on private yachts, which, as you
Right.
can imagine, are owned by very rich and wealthy
Yeah.
people. Then obviously here on YouTube, I've been very fortunate to interview Kevin Eastman a number of times, and
Yeah.
I went out recently and met the turtle voice actors from the '87 cartoon. So yeah, my life has been pretty good on that
Yeah.
front. It's hard to really point out and say
Pick
what
one.
my biggest claim to fame would be.
Pick one.
I don't. I like Jurassic Park. And I was fortunate enough to know someone that was working on Fallen Kingdom at the time, and I was able to get in and do some work on there. So there's a few little things in the background which I can point to and say I made that.
Very cool. Very cool. Okay, look, we're going to show another image of something that you've sent in. Tell her about this.
Yeah, so this is a large canvas painting, an actual painting, not a print, that a very kind member of the YouTube community actually sent to me free of charge as an AOK. And that's kind of what this represents. You know, this represents the kindness of the community, the AOKs that we receive. And, you know, I've been on YouTube for a while now, and, you know, this is one of the nicest things that someone's ever done. This was done by a gentleman online called Frog Boy, FRAWGBOY.
Frog Boy.
Frog Boy. And basically he paints these. You know, he does these as commissions, and he will only do one cover, like once. You know, he won't replicate them. But he actually done this. He done a painting for Reggie from Reggie Collects.
Yeah.
And basically they were going to host a competition, and they spun the wheel, and I was second, and they were like, oh, if the person doesn't come forward, you're going to get one. So basically he must have scoped me out and checked out my channel, but basically he said to me, look, I really want you to win, you know. Unfortunately I didn't. The guy did eventually come forward, but he still wanted to do it for me anyway. So yeah, he painted it for me. He said you can have any cover that you want. So obviously I was debating, do I get the first appearance of the lizard, which is my favorite character, or do I go for my actual favorite cover? And this is by far my favorite Spider-Man cover. So yeah, I was just so thankful. I mean, he sells these for anything between £500 to £1,000.
I mean, I have to say, look, when you sent it over, I assumed it was like a screen print or something like that. I didn't realize it was hand painted.
Yeah, it's hand painted.
Yeah, it's stunning work. Very nice, very nice. Yeah. Just quickly jumping back in the chat, we've got Efren saying you've recently met Chris Claremont as well. Yeah, we did. We did, Efren, you're right. John, even though just watched the X-Men vid, massive congrats. Thank you very much, John. Appreciate that, mate. Yeah, stunning, a stunning cover that look. And it's lovely. It's a unique piece that you've got. So yeah. Very, very cool. Very cool. Okay, mate. Next question. Favorite YouTuber. Now, this is not one of our channels. This is someone that you go to watch and enjoy watching. So who do you say is your favorite YouTuber?
So I thought about this one, and there's not really an individual that I would point out, but there's more of a niche, like a type of video that I enjoy watching that I don't think many others in our little circle would think that I would like watching. And that is van conversions. You know, like converting van conversions, like converting a van into like a small little motorhome on wheels. And it's always fascinated me because my original plan for this channel before COVID struck and we were all stuck indoors was to take it on the road. And I wanted to convert a van into a little makeshift studio where I could literally travel up and down the country, visiting every comic shop, every toy shop, and go to see people's collections. And that's what HYDRA Collectables was always going to be. It was less about me and more about everyone else. Unfortunately, fortunately for me, lockdown happened and we were stuck indoors, but I had already got started. I was already on a roll with creating the channel. And so that side of it never really took off or happened, but I still want it to.
I think the idea of visiting shops would be great.
Yeah, so I've been watching all these different van conversions. Obviously, these people, they're converting them into proper homes with beds and kitchens and stuff. I don't need that. I just need like a studio space where I can hang some lights, but have it all done out quite nicely. You know, have a nice table and sofa and stuff in there, camera set up. being able to go to a convention and literally interview people, but have a space to do it where you've got control of the sound and everything else. Sounds a bit dodgy when I say soundproofing a van to invite people in, but I'll get there before the chat does. But that was always like the dream. That was always like what I wanted to do. And I'm not even on about like having it all posted up, being like HYDRA Collectables and stuff. I'm not going to draw attention to it. It's just something that I always wanted the channel to be. I wanted to go and see people's collections. For me personally, I don't care if you collect stamps. Like, I love people who are passionate about collecting. And that's why I chose HYDRA Collectables with the different heads of the beast.
The different ones.
It can all be a different collection. It can all be something new.
Very cool. I like that idea. And there's a show coming on to Disney Plus by Jeremy Renner about his kind of converting vehicles to, he kind of converts them to things that are useful for the local communities, like libraries and things like that. But that, I think it's called Renner's Renovations or something.
Yeah.
But it looks very cool. Looks interesting. Okay, Luke, show us something else. What else you got?
So, going from signed props, let's go to signed and sketched comics and original.
Sorry, Luke, slightly distracted. Sorry. GPC, Science and Labs is your favorite movie, and you want to make a soundproof van.
Yeah. Sounds a bit dodgy, doesn't it?
Yeah. Sorry, interrupted you, mate. What's that?
So, nice. Sketched comics and custom art. I love original artwork. We as collectors, we have all sorts of amazing comic grails, but you can't beat a piece of original artwork. So this is from Charlie Adlard of Walking Dead fame, spread across 2 books and then signed and framed.
Stunning.
I absolutely love this. This is such a unique piece. I've been very lucky over the years when it comes to Charlie Adlard and my love of zombies. I've met him at several conventions, doing zombie makeup for various crew members and stuff like that. And so I got to know him quite well, and he's always done me the solid of putting that extra bit of time into the sketches that he does for me. So
yeah, he's an incredible guy. I met him twice at Thought Bubble. All I would say is you need to be prepared to wait, because that time you've just talked about, he puts that into every sketch and every interaction, and you can wait a long time because he spends a long time with each person.
That's my other. Sorry,
he did me a stunning Daredevil sketch, totally free of charge, because he apologized for making us wait, and it was phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Sorry, you were saying.
No, I was just gonna say that's my other claim to fame. He, I was in zombie makeup one of the times that I saw him, and he liked the makeup that much that he actually put it on one of the covers of one of the trades for Walking Dead. So it's on trade number 17, which is the first appearance of the character Negan. And My Little Zombie is on the front.
Really?
There. They have all the zombies along each of the covers where you can join them up, and it creates like a herd of zombies. That's another little claim to fame.
Very cool. That's very cool. We've got Friday night at the video store. Excuse me. Thank you very much for joining me. Jack's saying that he used to be very into stamps with his dad. I actually have some. I haven't got many, but I've got a Star Trek set of stamps actually. Fuzzy, my friend, buys cheap vans and converts them with beds, sinks, cookers, sells them dirt cheap. He sells loads of them. Yeah, I think they're a big thing at the moment, but yeah, very cool. Okay, Luke. So next question for you. Perfect day. What in the HYDRA household, what would be your idea of a perfect day where you can do whatever you want? You've got free reign to do anything.
I'm going to be really boring. I like doing very little if I can help it. There's always stuff to do. There's, even on the days when I want to just chill out, there's always something that I can get done. I don't get access to this room as often as I would like with, my kids sleeping next door. So, I always think, I've got to go up and make a video. Like, I never really get a true day to myself. But if I could, it would just be lounging about watching movies. I love movies. I'm a big movie buff, and it doesn't matter what the genre. I just enjoy watching film. Yeah. I think I'm probably at my happiest as well. I'm lying on the sofa just watching a film and just chilling, to be honest. But yeah, that I think you're right. It hasn't got to be some big complex kind of world shattering event to be a perfect day. It can just be doing something you love. A few cups of tea and a sausage sandwich.
So nice. Can I just encourage people that are watching? We've got quite a few viewers, so thank you very much. Please do check out Luke's channel. We'll talk about that a little bit later on, but please do also hit the like and subscribe button for both our channels. I would appreciate that. Next item, Luke. This is an interesting one. What's
Yeah,
this?
so dinosaurs. I'm I'm a big child. I'm a big kid. And I've loved dinosaurs since I was like 5 or 6 years old, maybe even earlier. Um, there's just something about these huge, magnificent creatures that walked the planet. And yet, when you look back and you think, well, the term dinosaur was only coined in like the Victorian times when they dug up the first one, from I think it was the Isle of Wight or the Isle of Man.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, but then it makes you wonder, what are all these other stories? Where do they all originate from? You only have to look at the skull of a large elephant or a mammoth to think, well, that must be where the Cyclops came from, because there's like a big gaping hole in the middle that
Yeah,
you would
yeah,
think that's where the eye belonged. And obviously the stories of dragons and things like that from mythology, to think that they weren't digging up these fossils for millennia before is just
yeah,
ridiculous. When they talk about the behemoth in the Bible and stuff like that, it
yeah,
must be these dinosaurs, it must be these things. And I love nothing more than going down to the Natural History Museum and just checking out these amazing creatures.
yeah.
And again, this is a replica skull of a Dilophosaurus. We got a little like taxidermied style compy in the background, and then
Yeah,
that
so that's
is
the one I'm wondering about. So tell us about the one in the background. What's that?
yeah. So in Jurassic Park 2, The Lost World, we see these little dinosaurs that kind of hunt in packs and they attack people, and they're known as
Yeah, yeah,
compies. There is a longer name, but I won't try to
yeah, yeah.
pronounce it. Um, but they're vicious little things, and they kind of peck people to death. And there's a scene right at the beginning with a little girl on the beach,
On the
and
beach. Yeah, I
yeah.
know them now. Yeah.
And so I've made my own version of one of those, which I've got down the back here. But then one of these came up. I follow an Instagram page, which I think is like Everything Dinosaur or something like that. So
Right.
it's a
Uh-huh.
website where you can buy dinosaur toys, basically. And they had these compies, these like dissected compies in these glass cases, and I was just like, that looks cool.
Yeah.
And they had a sale on, so I paid like 30 quid for it. It was meant to be like 100 and something pounds. So I just grabbed one. I've always intended to do a video about it. I kind of
Yeah.
shot footage of me unboxing it all and doing it all, but I've never actually compiled it into a video. And then this other thing, this like slab of plaster with the skeleton in it. This is actually a replica of the first dinosaur they found with feathers.
Ah, right. Okay.
So all during the time of that first Jurassic Park movie, where this was all slowly coming about in science in
Yeah.
the real world, this is why. And I've actually got a rather expensive book of like collected photographs of this entire dig, where they dug up all these different dinosaur bird-like creatures and realized that they all had feathers.
Yeah.
Which obviously was a little bit too late for the Jurassic Park franchise.
Yeah.
They,
Yeah.
they couldn't really go back. Although over time they have slowly added
Yeah.
feathers
In
to
the
some of
last
the
one, there was
dinosaurs.
the dinosaur with the feathered wings
Yeah.
on the ice or something at the end, wasn't it? In the lake, or whatever it was.
Yeah. But it's
Yeah.
basically that I'm a big kid. I love dinosaurs, and now my son's really into them as well.
I think there's something quite magical about dinosaurs that just gets your attention. Do you know what I mean? I mean, it's very hard pressed to find any kid, any young person who's not into dinosaurs in some way or shape, And I think the Jurassic Park movies, and we've talked on the Saturday show an awful lot about dinosaurs and monsters and things like that. So it's fascinating. I find it absolutely fascinating. Okay, mate. So moving on. We've done perfect, eh? Tipping point. What grinds your gears? What pushes Luke over the edge? Now, bearing in mind the last time we did this with James T. Keegan, he attacked the comments.
Yeah.
So
I'm
what is
I'm
it
gonna
that
be
winds you up?
I'm gonna be cautious with how I answer this, because there
Uh,
are caveats to what I'm gonna say. So don't attack me at first. It's 9.8 grades
right.
for comic
Okay.
books.
Uh-huh.
Um, I don't. I want to be cautious about this, because I believe that everyone should collect what they want to collect, and nobody should ever tell anyone what they
Mhm.
should or shouldn't do. But for me, the for example, the difference in price between a 9.6 and a 9.8,
Yeah.
I
It's
just think
obscene.
is shocking, for the fact that there is no real difference between them at all.
Yeah.
And I also believe that in 5 to 10 years' time, two 9.8s could look totally different from sun damage or dust particles or anything else that might occur to that book during that time. You know, these CGC cases, as nice as they are for display and everything else, they can only protect so much. Yeah, and like CGC says, you have to replace them every so long as well. You know,
I wonder if people actually do that. Do you know what I mean?
I don't think they do.
Yeah,
I don't think they do. And the thing is you know, you talk about bottled water, and people, bear with me, it's a tangent. You talk about bottled water and how, why would water have a use by date? It's existed in the planet for multiple years, you know, multiple millions of years. But it's because of the plastic, and the plastic leaches. Why isn't the plastic of these leaching into the paper? You know, I've always said that the more materials that your collectible is made from, the harder it's going to be to preserve. If you've got something that's all paper, that's fine. But comics aren't all paper. We have the staples, which rust. And we have the now you're adding plastic to it as well, and that will leach and that will break down. Exactly. So it's not so much that I'm not against slabbing. I'm not against the people getting a 9.8, but for me, it's not the be all and end all of the collecting hobby. I don't think a 9.8 automatically means that you've got the best of the best, because I think in 5 to 10 years time, we're going to go back to that very subjective grading of, well, this 9.8 looks a lot more faded in color than this one. Therefore, I'm not paying that money.
Luke, is what we're really talking about here that you once wanted a 9.8 and didn't get it? Is that what's bitter? Are you twisted now because of that?
Actually, the complete opposite. I sell every 9.8 that I get. I'm
in a rage. Do you sell them in a rage?
No, because I want the money. Right? I would sell the 9.8 and buy a 9.4 or a 9.6 and pocket the change. You know, it goes back to this whole wheeler dealer thing that I used to do. You know, I don't need to have a 9.8. I'm happy with an 8.0. You know, I mean, even with my old books, I'll take a 0.5. I really don't care. It's all about how it presents. It's all about how it looks and what it means to me. And I don't need my books to be the best of the best.
Absolutely.
Even if I had an AF15 and a 9.8, I am not keeping that book. I will sell it and I will buy a lower grade.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, it's interesting because is it 9.2 up is just classed as near mint. So really 9.2 onwards, it's the same book. And I've been on many a show where we've looked in detail at 9.8s, 9.6s, and quite often there is literally you can't see anything. So I think you're right, Luke. I think
I'm more happy when I've opened a book and it's a 9.6. I don't send a lot of books to get graded, but when I open it, it's a 9.6. At least I know I'm going to keep it.
Yeah. And I, you know, Fuzzy's agreeing with you there. And I think you're absolutely right. The 9.6 to 9.8 price jump is obscene.
But if you like 9.8s, by all means, go for 9.8s. You know, I'm not telling anyone how to collect.
I think it's kind of different. In my head, if it's a brand new book out, a modern book, it would be nice to have the higher grade 9.6, 9.8, whatever. But if it's an older book, like we've talked about many times, like the book we've just unboxed, the X-Men Behind Us there, if it's an older book, I really don't care what the grade is. I just want it because I'm not necessarily grading it for money. I'm grading it to protect the book and to protect the fragility, as it were, of certainly the X-Men Behind Us there. The thought of that just exploding, do you know what I mean? Cole is saying, I'm not fussed with my PC either. My Flash collection is most average 3.5. Yeah, just want the book. Yeah, that's a good way to collect, mate. Good way to collect. That said, there is no denying if you put a book in that you're necessarily not wanting to keep for yourself, you are trying to play the market. When you do get a 9.8 back, that's a good feeling because you know, as you've just described, not keeping it, but I can make a bit of money on that potentially. You know, so yeah, interesting stuff. Okay, another picture, Luke. And now I've stretched this image a little bit to try and help her to see what you're showing me. Okay.
Yeah. So
tell her about this. Fuzzy's little eyes have just probably lit up, by the way. Yeah.
I actually made a video about this recently on my channel. I say recently, probably a few months now. But this is my NECA Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle animated figure collection. And I love these things. But, you know, this is here to represent all of my action figures. You know, I love collecting toys, always have, always will. You know, I mentioned on one of our streams about how if my kids want to play with some toys, they're allowed to. You know, these are the ones where I question that ever so slightly, because my son, you know, NECA toys are fragile, you know, but I've gone out and actually purchased him his own version of Turtles, and he's got his own toys, and then we have these ones.
And also the thing, look, also the thing with this, when I looked at this, I thought about some of my collections as well, because I know you do let your kids play with your toys and stuff. Is the fragility in terms of setting up a display like this? One of my figures falls over and it's like, you know, chaos. Things are knocking. So the thought of the kid knocking it around and then you have to fanny on getting it back in place and stuff, that would have my anxiety, I think, a little bit.
So I do the jump test in this room. So this room is like fully earthquake proof.
I can't do that. Look, I'm a little bit heavier than you. I'd go through the floor. I'd end up in the garage.
The only figure here, so you can see the white samurai giant looking guy fighting the yellow alien in the center. He's the only one that's on a stand. All of the others, he's on a normal like 1/6 scale figure stand.
Got you.
And that's only because he's having to support the weight of the other figure that he's holding in his hand. Everything else is just balancing, you know. But again, I wanted to show this image because these are action figures, and I like when we display them in action poses. You know, I'm no ill will to anyone else, and again, I'm not telling people how to collect or display their things, but I don't like it when the figures are just standing up straight.
So we call that, in the 1/6 scale, we'll call that museum pose, which is basically just standing kind of looking, you know.
I like finding an action figure and really using all those articulation points and finding a good way to display them. That means more to me.
And that's why the smaller scale figures are better from that, because in terms of 1/6, you've got to be very cautious of it damaging costume and things like that, whereas these are much more playable, as it were. My eyes are drawn, look, because I don't know a great deal about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle toys, but the duck with the wings, he's quite a pricey figure, isn't he, from what I understand?
Yes and no. So from the original toy line, he was like most kids' favorite. He was kind of like a bit of a peg warmer back in the day, and a lot of kids had them. So he's in one scene of the Turtles cartoon, and he's literally on their television. All right, they are watching a show as they flick the channel, and he's there for one moment, and they made a toy of him. But a lot of kids had that toy, and so when NECA have now made this figure, people have kind of gone nuts for him. He was part of a 2-pack. He actually came with another figure as well. But yeah, it's a fun one. You know, I've been quite cautious with this. You know, they've released a lot more figures than what I own, but I'm only buying the ones that I have a sentimental connection with.
So I've picked up some of the NECA Turtle figures, and I've got kind of the original movie lineup of the 4 Turtles, Shredder, Splinter, 2-Foot Soldiers, and I picked up recently The Last Ronin, which is a really nice figure.
It's nice that you have two. It's nice that you have 2-Foot Soldiers of that movie line. I have a lot of them. I think
you've got an army build, haven't you?
Yeah, last count, I think I've got 20 of them.
And I know Fuzzy, I mentioned it earlier on another show, but I know Fuzzy's just picked up some of the NECA kind of horror turtle figures where they've got Mikey is Frankenstein, sorry, like that, and they look absolutely stunning. So I'm quite tempted by them.
I had to stop with those because I knew that this particular line was going to be hard enough to complete, and then obviously I've got the movie line, and now they've announced the Samurai Turtles from the 3rd movie over at NECA, and I really want those too. I don't like that movie, but that is a cool look for the Turtles to have.
Yeah, and it's interesting what you're saying about the figures needing to be kind of posed and played with. With my 1/6 scale figures, some of them you just can't do that with. But what I've set up, I don't know if you've seen the images, I've set up kind of my Spider-Man figures are all in a dynamic diorama with them fighting and bouncing off people's heads and things like that. And same with my Avengers ones. But yeah, nice, very nice figures. Look, I like them a lot. Next question. Who's your favorite supervillain?
So I think most people probably already know that I love the Lizard from Spider-Man.
Yeah, I'm not including him in this.
Well, I was going to
different.
expand. I was going to expand on
Yeah,
it and say that the reason why I like the Lizard so much is because my favorite fictional character of all time is Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Um, it's that duality, that dual nature of the yin and the yang, and the good and the bad.
yeah,
And it's been replicated so many times, not just with the Lizard, but with the Green Goblin and Venom, and all these like tormented beings just fighting with their inner monster.
yeah.
So yeah, as far as villains go, it's that kind of genre of villain, as it were. It's that type villain type.
So, what is it about Jekyll and Hyde that appeals to you most?
I just feel like we see a lot, even the classic of the Wolfman was like the inner beast that lies within man. But it's the fact that we are all so close to that. You watch any apocalyptic film or TV show like your Walking Dead and everything else, and you see these characters like the governor or Negan and stuff like that, and you see just how quickly humans can turn on each other. It's
Yeah,
that darkness that lurks within, even to the point where the minute you have I'll go dark when
yeah,
people judge me so quickly, but like the minute that you have like children and you suddenly realize that you would do anything to protect them and to look after them, even if that meant doing the unthinkable to someone else, these things do crop up within the world and society
yeah.
and everything else. And it's that fascination with me. Again, maybe that's why I like Interview with the Vampire, with that dual nature of the man and the beast. Silence of the Lambs with Hannibal Lecter and what he does, and then obviously Leon the Professional being a hitman. I feel like it's all part of the same. It's all people battling those inner demons.
Okay, interesting. Okay, Luke. Fuzzy's jumped in with Boris. I can't disagree. And Loki is a bugger as well. Yeah, absolutely tremendous villain. I love Loki. Okay, Luke, what else have you got to show us? So show us something else from your collection.
Yes, so I'm going to reach over here. I wanted to show this. It's my camera.
Yeah.
And it's because this has pretty much become my life over the last few years with all you guys on YouTube and everything else. I love movie making as much as I love watching movies. I love making movies. I love filming stuff. A lot of people see my channel and they go, "Oh, yeah, it's a guy who collects toys and comics." But the truth of the matter is that I would be making videos about anything if I had the chance.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily if this channel didn't continue, I would still be making videos and taking photographs. It's something that I love doing and enjoy doing. Not quite my perfect day because I'd still choose to stay indoors and watch a movie, but it's certainly one of my favorite things to do. And I've spent quite a lot of money on all this gear.
I was going to say that looks like a fancy bit of kit, Luke.
It's almost like a TIE fighter, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like, but yeah, I love this stuff. And, I go to all these conventions and try to interview people, try and get a press pass whenever I can.
Yeah.
And it's because I enjoy that side of it, and I like to think that that comes across when I'm making my videos. I take the time, I enjoy the whole process from scripting something to filming it, to editing it, to uploading it. I dabble with the algorithm and everything else. I find it all fascinating. To me, that is the hobby.
Yeah.
The comics and the toys is something else, and I'm doing the hobby just to, like that's the thing I'm showing in the hobby that I'm doing.
Yeah, that's really interesting, Luke. And I mean, I know we've talked about it before, but certainly when I got into YouTube, the process of editing a video is something that I really enjoyed doing because it was a new skill. It was learning it and all the rest of it. So I enjoy that kind of creative process. And I would just say, Luke, that your videos are some of the best quality videos out there, certainly from our kind of cohort. I know you put a lot of time into them, so they are very, very good. Okay, next question, Luke. And this is going to test you. So this is the questions from the audience. So we'll put out a bit of an Instagram post and ask people to send in some questions. So you've not seen these in advance, and there's some good ones. So first question from GP: have you ever added up the price of your Amazing Spider-Man collection?
I haven't, but I've been offered a price before. So I say that there was 2 times, I guess. So the first time someone offered me 20,000, and that was when I still needed 3 books out of the full set. Obviously I managed to pick up 2 of those. Obviously with the latest video that I've released, you can see that I've had to let one of those go, so I'm back down to 2. But that was quite a few years ago. That was like before lockdown, or just at the beginning stages of that. The second time was when I was debating whether or not to trade the collection for an AF-15. And the person again had the AF-15 listed at 30 grand. So that almost happened. That was a discussion, that was a talk. So I reckon between, let's be reasonable with it. It's probably between 20 to 25, but we could go up at 30 at a push.
Yeah, it's quite scary sometimes, isn't it, when you start to tottle it up and start to look at how much you've actually spent.
It's worth noting as well that, a lot of people don't realize when I say I've got the full run, I don't just mean like the first 100. I don't mean like just volume 1. I mean every single Spider-Man book, that they have made from his debut to now. Obviously, minus those choice books that I still need. That's all the tie-ins, all the decimal point numbers, all the first appearances, like the Edge of Spider-Verse with Spider-Gwen, the Miles Morales. It's everything.
Yeah. It's a lot of books. There. I mean, have you ever counted how many physical books is that?
Thousands. Like just the Amazing Spider-Man run is coming up to 1,000 issues now, isn't it? And if you include all those tie-ins and those decimal point numbers and everything, we're very close to being there.
Yeah, a lot of books. Chris from Gold Collectors just said I should probably start scripting. My blooper reel would be shocking. Each to their own, Chris. I mean, I know a number of YouTubers that script every word they say on their videos, whereas myself, my personal preference is, as you can probably tell because I'm a gobshite, is I don't script anything. I literally put the camera on and just start talking.
So I put bullet points just so I don't forget anything.
Yeah.
So if I'm making a video, I'll have maybe 5 bullet points just so I can literally glance at my screen and look up at my camera and I know it's right there. And it's only 5 sentences, so it's easy to see without disrupting the video.
Yeah, so it's not a full script, is it? It's
not a full script. It's a chat. I like talking.
Yeah. But like I say, each to their own, whatever works for you. Okay, next question. And I like this one. You can always trust Fuzzy. This is Fuzzy. If you had to call one of your YouTube pals to help you hide a dead body, who do you call and who don't you call?
Well, I wouldn't call Fuzzy because for starters, I don't know anything about him. I don't know what he looks like. I don't know who he. I wouldn't even recognize him if he tapped me on the shoulder. Who would I call out of our YouTube? I would call James T. Keegan, right? Because I know he can keep a secret because he hasn't told us that Potter story.
Well, he's told me.
Well, yeah, he's told me, but he hasn't said it out. I know, but
James looks. To be fair, James looks like the kind of guy who could get rid of a body, doesn't he?
Yeah. He works late nights as well.
He does.
Nothing suspicious about that.
Who wouldn't you call? Who do you think wouldn't be helpful?
Probably you, because you swore an oath to protect, right?
Absolutely. I'd shop you straight away.
You'd dob me right.
I would. You're quite right. In fact, I'm considering doing it now. It's just a preemptive one. Chris is saying that Fuzzy probably would be the body. Okay, next question, and this is a good one as well. When will we get more woodland-based content?
So I'm very lucky. I live in effectively what I would call the countryside. I grew up in London and very built up area. And for me, this is the countryside. It's a small town. Yeah, fair enough. But I've literally got the woodland and these farmers' fields and everything right on my doorstep. And again, like I say, I like making movies. I like going out. I do a lot of like photography and stuff all through the woodland and things like that. I take like a dinosaur toy with me and photograph it. It's just all good fun. If I can get away with doing it more, I would do a woodland video all the time. I think it shows. It's like I'm showing off that I can do more than just sit in this room and talk to a camera. That's what I would try to get at.
That's the key thing, I think. Look, I think it's nice to try and shake it up a little bit and kind of do the vlogs, as it were, or whatever it may be.
Yeah,
But
I
yeah,
mean, when me and you went to London, I made a point of making a video for that, you know,
yeah,
and I shot like the train arriving and things like that.
yeah,
I take a lot of pride in captivating that, and I'm always taking photos and video and things just on the off chance that it might become a video. You don't know
yeah,
what the day's going to hold.
absolutely. Last question from Friday at the Video Store. Favorite indie comic book series? That's a good one.
I don't know if it counts as indie. I guess it would. I really liked the first volume of Kanto.
Did you?
Yeah, I did. I did.
See,
There was something
everybody
I
told us I should love that. But
so I read it with my children,
oh
and
yeah,
I
that's
think
different.
that
Yeah,
might make it a bit different. You know, the little clockwork guy. You know, I'm not going to ruin how it ends or anything, but yeah, it was a fun read to share with my kids. You know, there's a lot
yeah,
of comics that we can't share with kids. What we read as kids is not suitable nowadays. It's grown with us, and I think that's
yeah,
probably Marvel and DC's biggest downfall is that they're aging up with their audience rather
yeah,
than getting a new one. I've made a couple of videos
yeah.
based on that in the past. So yeah, that was a nice indie book.
Yeah. It is a sweet story, and I think it would make a great Disney type movie. I think that would be very cool. Just quickly, another question here: are you into NFTs or digital collectibles?
No. I like physical. I like holding the things in my hands and knowing that I have ownership. No interest whatsoever.
And speaking of that, this is what we've got here. So tell us a little bit about this picture, Luke.
Yeah, so this is a picture to represent my comic collection.
Yeah.
As you can see, I've got the spinner rack, which I was very lucky to come across back in the early days of shopping around on eBay. Actually had it posted to me from up your way.
All right.
A comic shop was shutting down, and they just had a load of shelves and things that they were getting rid of. And I saw it in the background. It wasn't even listed for sale. It was in the background of another photo. So I
Right.
sent them a message. I love that spinner rack. You know, I think it's great to have one because they don't. Americans probably have a lot more love for them than we do here in the UK. But I love the idea of being able to grab a book from the spinner rack. Obviously, I've put slabs in there, so it's not as easy just to grab and read a book. But next to it, I've obviously got my Tales from the Crypt books, which are a combination of reprints and originals. And then, yeah, that is effectively my Spider-Man collection. There's probably a few other bits in there, such as like Secret Wars or Age of Ultron or House of M. I've got a lot of those event books. But that's all Spider-Man. You know, that's some 20 odd short boxes full of Spider-Man comics.
Very impressive. Excuse me. And I'm spotting. You'll have to tell us the name of it. The prototype for Cringer Battlecat.
Yes, so that's the Big Jim Tiger.
Jim.
Again, I love my Battle Cats. Both you and I are waiting for the new Mondo Battle Cat to come in the post. But yeah, again, I've got another video on my channel, which is another collection that I have, my Battle Cat collection. I collect a lot of things. I think this collecting might be a problem.
Yeah. I think it's an issue. Look, I think you need to, to speak to someone. Mr. Platinum Prophet, thanks for answering. We understand that as we have 2 rooms full of physicals. Yeah, digital recently got into. Wife is happy to take up less space. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the one positive, I suppose, about digital media versus physical. Luke, give a bit of advice, and it can be about anything. It can be about YouTube, it can be about life in general, collecting, whatever you want.
So yeah, I'm going to go probably deeper than what most people would go. A lot of people spend so much time worrying about what others think of them. And in truth, everyone's so caught up in their own world and their own things and their own dramas that they likely aren't thinking about you at all. So don't worry about other people. Do what you want to do what makes you happy, and don't shy away from it. You know, I go to these public events and I'll openly say what I enjoy doing and what I collect and everything else. And I don't care if people look at me and think I'm a big man child or whatever. It doesn't bother me at all. I think that a lot of this stuff that we all love and enjoy is the new antiques. You know, this is the things that our parents collected when they were our age is no longer around, is no longer of interest. It's all evolved and changed. It's pop culture. So yeah, don't worry about what other people think, because they're probably not thinking about you at all.
I think that's a great bit of advice, Luke. And I mean, I've talked to you previously about stuff like this, but I'm a chronic overthinker. And I find myself spending a lot of time thinking, well, why is this person not messaged us, or why haven't they said this, and all the rest of it. And actually, you're absolutely right. So I'm trying at the moment to switch off from all that and just kind of do what I want to do. So I think that's fantastic advice, Luke. Good for you, mate. Okay, show us something else, Luke. What else have you got to show off?
Okay, so I've still got two things here. So this is a prop. This is something I'm very happy and proud of. This is a screen used Audrey 2 from Little Shop of Horrors. And this was basically it's the plant inside that screen used, not the Maxwell House coffee tin that was added after. But basically, for anyone who's ever bought the special edition DVD, you get the alternate ending, and the alternate ending is that the plant wins. Spoiler
I haven't seen that.
Yeah. And basically, the shops are filled with loads of little Audrey 2s everywhere, and that's kind of like the end of the world, because it's going to take over. And people are rushing and buying these little Audrey 2 plants. And this is one of those. So this is one of those that was screen used for the original ending. They obviously changed the ending, and these were got rid of, destroyed. People stole them, nicked them, whatever. And I happened to know someone who worked on Little Shop of Horrors who had 3 of them. And I begged and begged and begged for one. They said no. I offered all sorts of money for it. They said no. And then one day I went to work with them on a film set, and they basically offered it to me as part payment. And so I accepted. I bit their arm off for it. And so I put it in the Maxwell House tin, which again is really hard to find one of those. Really, like, that's an antique in itself. But yeah, I've always I want Rick Moranis to come to a convention, and I get him to sign it. Just there. Get him to sign it. Whether he will or he won't, I don't know. Seeing him on those adverts with Ryan Reynolds made me hope that maybe he would come back to the scene that little bit more, see that people loved him. Just once, if I could just meet him and get that signed, it would make my day. But yeah, Little Shop of Horrors, Audrey 2.
That's stunning. Absolutely stunning. I love that movie. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. My daughter was in a production of that at school when she was younger, and me, my wife, and my son, who's a couple of years younger than she is, went to see it. And they did the full production, and my son screamed and freaked out when Audrey was starting to eat people. We had to leave. He couldn't sit through it. It was
the other thing that represents for me is my love of musicals, which people probably find a bit odd, because it doesn't necessarily gel with everything else that people see me as. I love musical. I love musical theatre. I love everything about it, and I love the old musicals. I like watching The Music Man or Singing in the Rain and stuff like that. Don't get me wrong, I like the more modern takes. I like the Sweeney Todd and stuff like that. I've actually been to see that on the stage show multiple times. But I love it all. I love choreographed dancing. It's amazing.
Yeah, we're good friends. James T. Keegan's recently getting me into Hamilton. I've never seen Hamilton.
Yeah, I've still not watched it because I never seem to have the time to put it on. It's a long.
It's a long one, mate. It's on Disney Plus at the moment, and me and my wife watched part 1 because, like you say, it's a bloody long show. And then watched part 2 just a few weeks ago. It's superb, absolutely superb. Okay, Luke, tell me a little bit about your channel. What's your channel all about, and where can people find you?
So, HYDRA Collectables, where we let our geek flag fly. And basically anything pop culture, whether it be comic books, toys, movies. I love everything. And like I said earlier in the show, it's all about people who have a passion, people who love collecting, people who have the collecting gene. It's an inherent thing built into some of us. We have hunters and gatherers. And the collectors kind of fall into that gathering thing. We like to be organized and have things and kind of display our wealth and show it. We're very proud. And I think that's something that's built in. And it's not necessarily hereditary, because my dad doesn't care about any of this. My dad was an antique dealer and a builder. And he got rid of everything that he ever had that was worth money, in order to put food on the table and everything else. So it definitely didn't come from him. and I'm not sure that it's going to go down to my kids either, which is weird because I don't know what best to do with the collection if that happens. You know, I'm kind of holding on to it all, thinking, will one of them take it and have it? But either way, the channel is about people who have that passion, have that collector's gene. And if anyone wants to come on and have a chat with me about stuff, I'm more than welcome to have guest appearances, much like what you're doing here. That is what the channel was originally meant to be, and it didn't happen with lockdown. So yeah, if you love pop culture, you love your toys, love your movies, love your comic books, head on over to HYDRA Collectables.
Excellent, good stuff. Let's see your last item, Luke. What's the last thing you want to show?
So I didn't know how to best represent this, so I've gone for something very random to hold up and show. This represents physical media.
Okay, right. Yeah.
I love physical media. You know, don't get me wrong, you can have your streaming services for your convenience and everything else, but they're making a lot of changes and they're taking things away, and you don't always know what's going to be where or where you can find it. At least if you own the actual thing, whether it be VHS or DVD or Blu-ray 4Ks, whatever you want, that's what I want. You know, we said about it when we mentioned the NFTs. I like holding the physical item in my hand. I like the artwork that comes on these cases, you know, even just like going back to music and like albums and cassette tapes and being able to take the sleeve out and read all the lyrics to the songs and everything else. So that's what that represents, physical media. And despite all of this that I've got here, man, you should see my physical media collection.
It's interesting because, I mean, you talked about grading and things recently before, but CGC now grade videotapes and things like that, which is interesting. But yeah.
Now, Fuzzy saying there, holding a DVD didn't enter my mind. No, because then I would have to pick which DVD it was, and then you might want to talk about that particular film. Yeah. This is to encompass everything, and I made sure it was a VHS and DVD player, because this isn't one that I've got wired in. This is a spare that I have should that one break.
Standby VHS video player.
Well, when are you ever going to get another one? That's the thing. You know, I've got about 3, maybe 4 of them kicking around that I can put into different rooms. Like this is a media room, and we've got the room downstairs for the living room. So there's one in each of these, to say the least.
We've got a DVD player, and I'm trying to think the last time we actually used it.
So I purposely watch films. We have like a film day every week, me and the kids. And I purposely give them the disc to hold. Right? Doesn't matter if it's on the server. No, I've got my own media server with it all logged on to a NAS drive and everything else. That's irrelevant. I give them the DVD to hold because they can look at the cover, they can read the back. You know, they're old enough to read now. They can read it for themselves, and they get that little bit of buzz from it, and they're holding it while they're watching it. And I find that when we watch a film that way, they sit and they watch it from start to finish. If it's on the streaming show, they come and go. They're not interested because they know it's forever there and they can go back to it.
Yeah, very true.
I introduced them to Jurassic Park recently. A key dad moment for me. And
did they like it?
They loved it. And again, holding the cases, holding the toys in their hand, you know, holding the T-Rex while they're watching it break out. You know, that's where the excitement is. And I make popcorn, and we shut all the curtains and everything. We watch a film. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting you're talking about that, because that's something as a family we've very much always done. As long as I can remember, a movie night. We still do it now. We have what we call a bread and cheese night. So we'll get all the different kind of hams and cheeses and stuff, and all put on the table, and we'll sit and watch a movie together. And even though my kids are getting older now, so Jessica's 18 in August, she'll still take part in that. All I would say is it becomes like World War II when they're trying to decide who's got the rights to pick the film. Do you know what I mean? We'll have to
see my kids aren't there. My kids aren't there yet. So this last weekend, just gone, I introduced them to The Princess Bride.
Oh, I love it.
And my daughter's face when she realized who the masked man was, and the six-fingered man and everything. It was just so much fun. And I find that I'm watching them rather than the movie. Yeah, I'm waiting to see their reaction, and I love it when they enjoy it as much as I did.
Interesting point here from Mastodon. My feelings have changed towards comic books and physical media when a $6, $7, $8 book becomes a $1 book a few months down the line. So I agree. It's slightly heartbreaking at times when you realize how much money you've.
But now's the time to buy those DVDs, because with streaming, everyone doesn't want their DVDs. And you go to the charity shops, I pick up 5 for £1. That's 20p each. And I found all of the classic movies there. I picked up Batteries Not Included the other day, and I was like, wow, I can't wait to put this on.
That's another film I haven't watched for years. I need to go back and rewatch some of
they're
these.
all there. And I tell you what, people are going to get wise to it, because we've just seen it recently. Disney are starting to take shows away. And if they're going to take away, at the moment, it's the content they've been making just for streaming. But if they start taking away other stuff and locking it away in their like Disney vault, people are going to riot. I mean, imagine if Disney decided to take away the original Home Alones and only leave you their crappy remake over Christmas.
Yeah, not good. Not good.
I'll be all right. I've got the DVD.
We'll all be around your house, Luke. I'll bring the breads and cheeses. Okay, so thank you very much, Luke. That has been really interesting. I've known you for a while, but I've learned some more about you tonight, so I really do appreciate that. And thank you to everybody that's been in the chat. We had a lot of people, so thank you very much. Do appreciate that as well. And it's been a pleasure, Luke. Just to quickly mention what's coming up on your channel next, Luke. What have you got happening?
I certainly don't know what's coming up next on my channel, but I have recently just posted a video about letting go of one of my Spider-Man comics, so please head on over to the channel and give that a watch. I'm still quite emotional about it. I don't want to talk about it. But no, all jokes aside, you know, it was a hard decision to make, but it was one that I think was important to make. Incidentally, you're probably going to touch upon it, but I'm looking forward to Monday's show on your channel where we're going to discuss toys. So I've been doing a bit of research for this month's toys that I'll be covering on your channel. Good stuff.
Good stuff. So this is my show. Really enjoying doing these. If anybody would like to take part in this series, do drop us a line or DM on Instagram. I've got quite a few people interested, but always happy to talk with people that I've not met before. So please do send those through. Okay. Lots of people saying great show. Chris, you need to get that cough checked. I've just inhaled a bit of sellotape, mate. That's what's going on there. I think I've got a sticky tape in my lung. So yeah, Luke mentioned Monday's show, but before that we've got Only Slabs on Saturday night. I'm over on Rob Faxtax's channel showing off some slabbed comic books, and I'll be showing off my new acquisition, which we did a live show about just a little few minutes ago. So yeah, please do check us out over at 7:30 on Rob's channel. After that, we've got our giveaway show. So we're going to be doing a live show on Saturday night, and we're going to be giving away a whole host of these DC physical cards, which are also NFTs. I'm going to be giving away sets of 5 packs of cards to subscribers. So if you fancy winning some of those, please do make sure you check that out. Monday, as Luke mentioned, we've got Let's Talk Toys, which is the show where we talk all things action figures and computer games. James keeps telling us off, not computer games, video games. So we've got that Monday. We'll be looking at 1/6 scale. We'll be looking at smaller scale figures, anime figures, and also video games. So really looking forward to that. The Killer Comic Show boys are back tomorrow night. Please do make sure you check out their show. They've got lots of great content. It's going to come back with a bang. So please do make sure you check out those guys. And then, as usual, we've got a whole host of UK live show content. So please check out all of the guys on screen there. And also, just to point in the direction of a good friend, Efren at Passpoint One Comics. He's got some great videos out at the moment, but he's also going to be doing his own live show next week, I believe. It'll be early UK time, but please do make sure you go and give that a rewatch and support Efren, because he's one of the best people in the community. That's your whack. Okie dokie. Thank you very much, everybody. The chat's been buzzing tonight. Thank you. It's really, really appreciated that you jump in and support this channel. And it's nice to have learned a little bit more about Luke. I'm sure you'll all agree.
And I didn't mention Lost once.
You just did. You just did. I told you not to mention Lost. Oh, we'll have to do a specific show all about Lost, Luke. We're not. Yeah.
No, really, do they?
Right. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, Luke. Do appreciate it. And we'll catch you all next time. Take care. Bye-bye.